Top Israeli government and security officials have overseen a 9-year surveillance operation targeting the ICC and a Palestinian rights groups to try to thwart a war crimes probe, a joint investigation reveals. This was a joint investigation in partnership with Local Call, and also The Guardian wrote a follow-up piece to this. It focuses on Yossi Cohen, the former head of the Mossad, an insanely quickly rising figure of the Israeli center-right, and his attempts to threaten the previous prosecutor Bensouda. Remember, the Trump administration put sanctions on Bensouda, the Gambian prosecutor, that the American media considered controversial. Why was she considered controversial? Why did she withstand sanctions directly as a person by the American government? Oh, that's right, because she wanted to investigate, back in 2021, war crimes that Israel had conducted. War crimes that Israel had engaged in, and also beyond those war crimes that Israel may have been engaging in and continues to engage in, the potential for an independent investigation into the apartheid as well. They found out, Local Call and 972 Magazine, in a collaborative effort with The Guardian, found out that this multi-agency operation, which dates back to 2015, has seen Israel's intelligence community routinely surveil the court's current chief prosecutor Kareem Khan, his predecessor Fatou Bensouda, and dozens of other ICC and UN officials. Guardian says Mossad chief menaced ICC prosecutor, said, "You should help us and let us take care of you. You don't want to be getting into things that could compromise your security or that of your family." That is probably the most powerful line in the entire investigation. But just remember, Israel has a right to defend itself against Kareem Khan and also Bensouda as well, and their Hamas and their anti-Semitic. 5 sources familiar with Israel's activities said it routinely spied phone calls made by Bensouda and her staff with Palestinians blocked by Israel from accessing Gaza and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. The ICC was forced to conduct much of its research by telephone, which made it more susceptible to surveillance. Thanks to their comprehensive access to Palestinian telecoms infrastructure, the sources said, intelligence operatives could capture the calls without installing spyware on the ICC's officials' devices. If Fatou Bensouda spoke to any person in the West Bank or Gaza, then that phone call would enter intercept systems. One source said, another said, there was no hesitation internally over spying on the prosecutor, adding, with Bensouda, she's black and African, so who cares? Anyway, getting back to the article. Israeli intelligence also monitored materials of the Palestinian authorities submitted to the prosecutor's office and surveilled employees of 4 Palestinian human rights organizations whose submissions are central to the probe. According to sources, the covert operation mobilized the highest branches of the Israel government, the intelligence community, and both the civilian and military legal systems in order to derail the probe. The intelligence information obtained via surveillance is passed on to a secret team of top Israeli government lawyers and diplomats, who traveled to The Hague for confidential meetings with the ICC officials in an attempt to feed the chief prosecutor information that would make her doubt the basis of her right to be dealing with this question. The intelligence was also used by the Israeli military to retroactively open investigations into incidents that were of interest to the ICC to try to prove that Israel's legal system is capable of holding its own account. Additionally, as The Guardian reported earlier today, the Mossad, Israel's foreign intelligence agency, ran its own parallel operation, which sought out compromising information on Bensouda and her family members in an apparent attempt to sabotage the ICC's investigation. The agency's former head, Yossi Cohen, personally attempted to enlist Bensouda and manipulate her into complying with Israel's wishes, according to the sources familiar with his activities, causing the then prosecutor to fear for her personal safety. Our investigation draws on interviews with more than 24 current and former Israeli intelligence officers and government officials, literally behaving, well, I mean, I guess like behaving like the CIA. I was going to say literally behaving like the mob, but like, you know, this is CIA behavior. I'll repeat, Yossi Cohen is also a rising star in Israeli right-wing politics and is seen as a potential alternative to Bibi. He hasn't even announced his entry into politics, and they've already seen insane polls that show a party led by him would get like 30 seats. Holy shit.
On the 16th of January 2015, within weeks of Palestine joining, Bensouda opened a preliminary examination into what in the legalese of the court was called the situation in Palestine. The following month, 2 men who had managed to obtain the prosecutor's private address turned up at her home in The Hague. Sources familiar with the incident said the men declined to identify themselves when they arrived, but said they wanted to hand-deliver a letter to Bensouda on behalf of an unknown German woman who wanted to thank her. The envelope contained hundreds of dollars in cash and a note with an Israeli phone number. Sources with knowledge of an ICC review into the incident said that while it was not possible to identify the men, or fully establish their motives, it was concluded that Israel was likely to be signaling to the prosecutor that it knew where she lived. The ICC reported the incident to Dutch authorities and put in place additional security.
It's pretty crazy because what they ended up doing is almost identical to my experience with the Turkish government, where like The first call I got through someone that I know was literally, hey, we'll give you money to write another article, after I read the article on Huffington Post. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, even though I was broke as fuck and I probably should have taken that money. Let's be real. Then came the threats. Like, first it was like, here, take some money and fuck off, or maybe, you know, write something different. Kind of interesting to think that like governments have one speed, or at least maybe governments in that area. I don't know. I don't know how America does it.
If Fatou Bensouda spoke to any person in the West Bank or Gaza, then that phone call would enter intercept systems, one source said. Another said there was no hesitation internally over spying on the prosecutor, adding, with Bensouda, she's black and African, so who cares?
They said they had no hesitation in spying on Bensouda and said she's black and African, so who cares? There was sensitive information, testimony for potential witnesses. There were specific allegations of Rome Statute crimes to senior officials, including chiefs of the IDF, directors of the Shin Bet, and defense ministers such as Benny Gantz, who, remember, is America's guy. Benny Gantz is supposed to be the liberal on the war cabinet that Americans like, that will inevitably push for when all of this stuff is done so they can go back to the apartheid, liberal Zionism. Years later, after the ICC opened a full investigation, though, Gantz designated Al-Haq and 5 other Palestinian rights groups as terrorist organizations, a label that was rejected by multiple European states and later found by the CIA to be unsupported by evidence. If you remember, the former State Department official went on Christian Amanpour's broadcast and literally said, Israel told us to prosecute, or Israel told us like these guys were fucking terrorists. Suspiciously, a week after, Adamir is the one I'm talking about. I think Adamir is the one that was talking about the human rights abuses and mass rape happening in Israeli fucking prisons, the Israeli military prisons against Palestinians. As soon as they submitted that report, Israel designated them a terror organization, seized all their fucking computers. Everyone is Hamas. They're literally doing like villain shit.
One of the sources said the Shin Bet even installed Pegasus spyware, developed by the private sector NSO group, on the phones of multiple Palestinian NGO employees, as well as 2 senior Palestinian Authority officials. Keeping tabs on the Palestinian submissions to the ICC's inquiry was viewed as part of the Shin Bet's mandate. But some army officials were concerned that spying on a foreign civilian entity crossed a line, as it had little to do with military operations. It has nothing to do with Hamas. It has nothing to do with stability in the West Bank, one military source said of the ICC surveillance.
The amount of power that the Israeli espionage agencies have, that they literally demonstrate against ICC prosecutors with with total impunity. Like, think about that. This is incredible. If Russia was doing a fucking fraction of this shit, and Russia does plenty wrong, don't get me wrong, but like, if Russia was doing a fraction of this shit, dude, we would nuke them. I don't know what else we would do. We already gave them the mother of all sanctions packages, but like, this is our ally. They are infinitely more malleable. They are infinitely more persuadable, partially because without us, they're nothing.
Legitimate or otherwise. The surveillance of the ICC and Palestinians making the case for prosecutions against Israelis provided the Israeli government with an advantage in a secret back channel it had opened with the prosecutor's office. Israel's meetings with the ICC were highly sensitive. If made public, they had the potential to undermine the government's official position that it did not recognize the court's authority. According to 6 sources familiar with the meetings, they consisted of a delegation of top government lawyers and diplomats who traveled to The Hague. 2 of the sources said the meetings were authorized by Netanyahu. In the beginning it was tense, recalled a former ICC official. We would get into details of specific incidents. We'd say, we're receiving allegations about these attacks, these killings, and they would provide us with information. A person with direct knowledge of Israel's preparation for the back-channel meetings said officials in the Justice Ministry were furnished with intelligence that had been gleaned from Israeli surveillance intercepts before delegations arrived at The Hague. The lawyers who dealt with the issue at the Justice Ministry had a big thirst for intelligence information, they said. For the Israelis, the back-channel meetings, while sensitive, presented a unique opportunity to directly present legal arguments challenging the prosecutor's jurisdiction over the Palestinian territories. They also sought to convince the prosecutor that, Despite the Israeli military's highly questionable record of investigating wrongdoing in its ranks, it had robust procedures for holding its armed forces to account. This was a critical issue for Israel. A core ICC principle, known as complementarity, prevents the prosecutor from
Yeah, it doesn't matter though. Complementarity doesn't matter because the government is not doing a decent enough job investigating itself or its individuals for the war crimes that it is committing. So complementarity doesn't matter. Israeli surveillance operatives were asked to find out which specific incidents might form part of a future ICC prosecution. Multiple sources said in order to establish Israeli investigative bodies to open investigations retroactively. Yeah, if materials were transferred to the ICC, we had to understand exactly what they were to ensure that the IDF investigated them independently and sufficiently so that they could claim complementarity. So they would do a war crime, and if the ICC was looking into said war crime, they would fake investigate it specifically so they could turn around and say complementarity, complementarity, complementarity. They were surveilling the motherfucking prosecutors to say, hey, we have investigated ourselves on this issue, so you can't actually hit us. Now do you understand how fucking ridiculous it is that we're complaining about Kareem Khan? I may be very ignorant, but why did the prosecutor not say anything before? I don't know if you know this, but this prosecutor is no longer a prosecutor with the ICC. And also, literally, I don't know if this article does get to it. I was about to say, the prosecutor was literally tarnished and sanctioned by the American government. Chatter. According to multiple sources, the Mossad obtained a cache of materials, including transcripts of an apparent sting operation against Bensouda's husband. The origins of the material and whether it was genuine remain unclear. However, elements of the information were circulated by Israel among Western diplomatic officials, sources said, in a failed attempt to discredit the chief prosecutor. A person briefed on the campaign said it gained little traction among diplomats and amounted to a desperate attempt to besmirch Bensouda's reputation. They went after her fucking husband. But hey, you know who else they had on board to do the fucking bidding? This dipshit. In March 2020, 3 months after Bensouda referred to the Palestinian case in the pretrial chamber, an Israeli government delegation reportedly held discussions in Washington with a senior U.S. official about a joint Israeli-American struggle against the ICC. This is great because I remember shit like Yossi Cohen being kicked out of the Congo in 2022, and now we find out he was literally just there to harass Bensouda. Also, I can't stress enough how Israeli media conscripted to smear Bensouda back in 2019 and 2021. Hit pieces like this one were published left and right. It's not unlikely they were personally requested by Bibi, as they all came from outlets owned by his billionaire friends. Bensouda is also Muslim. I guarantee Islamophobia played a role in this. And so is Kareem Khan. Kareem Khan is Muslim too. And that's playing a role again. That's the problem. Kareem Khan was supposed to be their guy. Kareem Khan is the guy that they advocated to put on the ICC as a prosecutor, which is weird because neither the United States of America nor Israel are a part of the ICC, which they openly will let you know. Not only are they not a part of the ICC, but America literally has a law in the books to invade the fucking Hague. One Israeli intelligence official said they regarded Donald Trump's administration as more cooperative than his Democratic predecessors. This is an answer for many who always ask me, like, Hasan, do you fucking hate Biden more than Trump now? It's like, no, I have the same level of smoke for both of them. On the issue of Israel, Joe Brandon is dog shit. But you know who else was dog shit just as much as Joe Brandon? Donald Trump. Joe Brandon was dog shit before October 7 for not undoing a lot of the awful shit that the Trump administration had done beforehand and continuing it. The Israelis felt sufficiently comfortable to ask information from U.S. intelligence about Bensouda, a request the source said would have been impossible during Barack Obama's tenure. You know, because he's also black and a Muslim. Days before the meetings in Washington, Bensouda had received authorization for the ICC judges to pursue a separate investigation into war crimes in Afghanistan committed by the Taliban and both Afghan and U.S. military personnel. Fearing U.S. armed forces to be prosecuted, the Trump administration was engaged in its own aggressive campaign against the ICC, culminating in the summer of 2020 with the imposition of U.S. economic sanctions on Bensouda and one of her top officials. I want you to remember something. If this were to continue in the Brandon regime, they would have done the same thing. And I cannot stress this enough. If the ICC moved against U.S. personnel for the litany of war crimes that American active duty service members did in Afghanistan in our 20-year occupation, we would have done the exact same shit, perhaps even more, depending on the severity. We are currently moving in that direction against the ICC under the Brandon regime already. But this is perhaps one of the most important investigations conducted into the way in which Israel's espionage and American involvement operates against international organs of justice. Among ICC officials, the U.S.-led financial and visa restrictions on court personnel were believed to relate as much to the Palestine investigation as to the Afghanistan case. Two former ICC officials said senior Israeli officials had expressly indicated to them that Israel and the U.S. were working together. Two countries that are not under the ICC's jurisdiction, according to them. At a press conference in June last year, senior Trump administration figures signaled their intention to impose sanctions on ICC officials, announcing that they'd received unspecified information about financial corruption and malfeasance at the highest levels of the office of the prosecutor. As well as referring to the Afghanistan case, Mike Pompeo, Trump's Secretary of State, linked the U.S. measures to the Palestine case. It's clear the ICC is only putting Israel in its crosshairs for nakedly political purposes, he said. Months later, this dumb fuck accused Bensouda of having engaged in corrupt acts for her personal benefit. The U.S. has never publicly provided information to substantiate that charge, and Joe Biden lifted the sanctions months after he entered the White House. But at the time, Bensouda faced increasing pressure from apparently concerted effort behind the scenes by two powerful allies. As a Gambian national, she did not enjoy the political protection that other ICC colleagues from Western countries had by virtue of their citizenship. A former ICC source said this left her vulnerable and isolated. Remember that. She's Gambian. Kareem Khan is a British national, which, by the way, opens up a litany of other complications for Kareem Khan. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. These institutions still operate on the very same boundaries of white supremacy. If you're African and you're black, you have less rights. You have less cover. You have less protection. Cohen's activity source said were particularly concerning for the prosecutor and led her to fear for her personal safety. When the pretrial chamber finally confirmed the ICC had jurisdiction in Palestine in February 2021, some at the ICC even believed Bensouda should leave the final decision to open a full investigation to her successor. On the 3rd of March, however, months before the end of her 9-year term, Bensouda announced a full investigation into the Palestine case, setting in motion a process that could lead to criminal charges, though she cautioned the next phase could take time. Any investigation undertaken by the office will be conducted independently, impartially, objectively, without fear or favor, she said. To both Palestinian and Israeli victims and affected communities, we urge patience. When Khan took the helm in June 2021, he inherited an investigation he later said lies on the San Andreas fault of international politics and strategic interests. Kareem Khan, if you recall, was literally backed by the U.S. and Israel. They both saw Kareem Khan as their guy. In Israel, the government's top lawyers regarded Khan, who has previously defended warlords such as the former Liberian President Charles Taylor, as a more cautious prosecutor than Bensouda. One former senior Israeli official said there was lots of respect for Khan, unlike his predecessor. His appointment to the court was viewed as a reason for optimism, they said, but they added that the 7th of October attack changed that reality. On February 2024, Khan issued a strongly worded statement that Netanyahu's legal advisors interpreted as an ominous sign. In the post on Twitter, he in effect warned Israel against launching an assault on Rafah, the Gaza's southernmost city, where more than 1 million displaced people were sheltering at the time. The comments stirred alarm within the Israeli government as they appear to deviate from his previous statements about the war, which officials had viewed as reassuringly cautious. That tweet surprised us a lot, a senior official said. Israeli intelligence intercepted emails, attachments, and text messages from Khan and other officials in his office. The subject of the ICC climbed the ladder of priorities in the Israeli intelligence. Dude, they're literally at this point doing a genocide while simultaneously using whatever remaining surveillance capabilities they have on surveilling the formerly pro-Israel prosecutor that they thought was their guy. Think about that. How nutty. It was via intercepted communications that Israel established that Khan was at one stage considering entering Gaza through Egypt and wanted urgent assistance doing so without Israel's permission. How can he do that? That's our territory, which we left independent. Not allowed. You cannot go to the concentration camps without us letting you in. Another Israeli intelligence assessment circulated widely in the intelligence community drew on surveillance of a call between two Palestinian politicians. One of them said Khan had indicated that a request for arrest warrants for Israeli leaders could be imminent, but warned he was under tremendous pressure from the United States. It was against this backdrop that Netanyahu made a series of public statements warning a request for arrest warrants could be imminent. He called on leaders of the free world to stand firmly against the ICC and use all the means at their disposal to stop this dangerous move. He added, branding Israel's leaders and soldiers as war criminals would pour jet fuels on the fires of anti-Semitism. In Washington, a group of senior U.S. Republican senators already sent threatening letter to the Khan with a clear warning, target Israel and we will target you. The rest you know publicly. ICC has strengthened its security with regular sweeps of the prosecutor's offices, security checks on devices, phone-free areas, weekly threat assessments, and the introduction of a specialist equipment. Against Israel. I need you to understand this. Against Israel. Everything is energy says 1. Palestine isn't full of saints. Google treatment of LGBTQ and women. 2. Israel's response to the attack is nuts and will recruit more people into Hamas. 3. Biden is not responsible for what Israel is doing. Number 1. It doesn't matter if a fucking entire area of land is full of saints or not, especially its mistreatment of LGBTQ and women, which is hilarious when you're talking about the other side that's both doing an ethnic cleansing campaign and also mistreats LGBTQ people and specifically women, but they do it in a democratic way where they're discussing whether or not women should be allowed to read or not, but in a democratic process. Meanwhile, you have no amount of smoke for like Saudi Arabia or whatever. And last but not least, number 2 is correct. Biden is not responsible for what Israel's doing is ridiculous. Of course, Biden is responsible for what Israel's doing. They are using our weapons. We have Nazis in this fucking country. If you think that I would be on board with a fucking foreign country, both occupying us for 75 years and then bombing us and killing a shit ton of women and children and men, you would be out of your mind. I don't know why people still do this whole like, oh, Palestinians are actually very anti-LGBT. Like, who gives a shit, bro? What do you mean? They're getting genocided. Imagine being like, well, you know, some of the Jews during the Holocaust might have said some really fucked up things about gay people. Okay. Like, what do you mean? Like, well, what the fuck is that? Like, you only say that to try and like say that they deserve it. You know what I mean? It's very odd. Did Israel have a relationship with apartheid South Africa? I don't know if you're joking or not, but yes, the answer is absolutely. Here is a fun little history lesson about what the ADL, formerly known as the Anti-Defamation League, currently known as the Apartheid Defense League, was doing in the fucking 80s and 90s. You know what they were doing in the buildup when there was a shit ton of pressure against apartheid South Africa, when there was a BDS movement against apartheid South Africa in America? The Apartheid Defense League was spying on Jewish labor leaders, students, activists of many different backgrounds, Arabs, and anyone and everyone that was against apartheid South Africa, collaborating information between defenders of apartheid South Africa and South African espionage agencies. The ADL was operating at their behest. Not so fun fact. South Africa and Israel collabed in making nuclear weapons. Oh, there's that too. An Israeli ambassador during the time was quoted as saying Israel's strategy was to generally refrain from condemnation of South Africa and from passing any judgment on the specific merits of the issues. I wonder why Israel had such an interest in not really criticizing apartheid South Africa. In any case, that's the story. It's pretty crazy. I feel like they learned from the lessons of apartheid South Africa on how to maintain their own apartheid.